So to find the critical value for this test, what we need to do is we need to remember that we had 12 matched pairs, 12 different customers, and depending on what you chose, whether you chose a two-tailed test or you said after minus before, where you'd end up with more negatives, hopefully, or if you said before minus after, you'd get a positive. I mean, either one of these is a one-tailed test, so it doesn't really matter which way you went there. If you decide to go with a one-tailed test, and we get an alpha level of a significance level of 0.05, we're going to go to this column, and we'll do the 12 row because we get 12 items. Our critical value is 17. If you decided to go with a two-tailed test, n equals 12, we're going to use this column here, a two-tailed 0.05, 12 row. I'm seeing a critical value of 14. So we're going to go with one of these two values, depending on what you go with. Okay, so how do we interpret all this? Well, if you went with a less than H1, that meant you did as I did, where you took the 1 year weight minus initial weight. That meant they were heavier initially. So if I'm going to think about the critical value, when you found calculated test statistic, you found that this was negative. So we're going to pretend that just so it looks like a left-tailed test. The critical value for a one-tailed test is negative 17, and I got a test statistic of negative 19, which is on this side of the critical value. In other words, I'm in the rejection region. I'm not in the happy place for HO. I'm over here. So I'm in the rejection region. I can reject HO. Looks like this diet was effective in reducing weight. Okay, and helping people hold it off. If I wanted to do a two-tailed test, I would pretend I probably got that the test statistic was positive, so I'm going to treat that critical value. So that's a right-tailed test. I don't know if I said two-tailed test. I'm going to pretend it's a right-tailed test where you said initial, you would have done initial minus the 1 year. You would have got a positive 19, and our test statistic is on the right side of that critical value, so it's in the rejection region. It's not in the happy place. Again, the same decision that we can reject HO. Looks like the median difference is greater than 0. Looks like the initial they did lose weight. They held their weight off after a year. But then if I'm doing a two-tailed test, I could have a test statistic as low as negative 14 or as high as positive 14, and depending on what you came up with, 19 is either in either one of these tails. It's in one of them because it's not in the middle. It's bigger than 19 and less than negative 14. I mean, bigger than 14, less than negative 14. So again, we can reject HO. Looks like these diets were effective in reducing people's weight.